everybody, and welcome back to the Tora Jordan Show. I am your host, Tora Jordan. If you are new here, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. Today is going to be a little bit different than what normal low-carb keto, kind of talking through things. Today we're actually going to talk about gardening. And y'all might be like, okay, thought this was a low-carb and keto kind of helping each other through. It is. My husband and I are not the richest people in the world by any means. We're rich in love, but we're not rich in money. So we try to put out a garden. Some years have been smaller gardens. Some years have been bigger gardens. But we have found out that our garden plot in our side yard is full of Johnson grass. I mean, loaded with Johnson grass. And y'all might be going, some people may be going, what's Johnson grass? Okay, well, Johnson grass is a very invasive species of grass. It's native to the area that I live in. And instead of it being just a regular root system that goes straight down or maybe fans out just a little bit, it has what they call rhizomes. And y'all might be going, what's rhizomes? I'll tell you, rhizomes are these root systems that jet out and they spider out. And so you may have one little Johnson grass that starts here and it's going everywhere in like the next day. So it drives you crazy, especially if you're trying to plant a garden. What do? So my husband and I a few years ago decided to do a container garden. We didn't have a huge container garden because we were just kind of trying to figure it out. And with my crazy work schedule and he was doing some side jobs and everything, we couldn't tend the garden as much as as a big garden would need. So we did just a few things, and it was like, okay, well, we can do this. We can handle this. And my daddy is a cattle farmer, and he gives his cattle protein in tubs, and the tubs are about 5 to 6 gallon tubs. They're a little over 2 feet tall, and they're pretty big size. So they're wonderful for making a container garden. And we put out a few things and they did really well. The first year, or maybe it was the second year that we had a container garden, I planted a pepper plant called a gypsy pepper. It's in the bell pepper family, but it looks more like a jalapeno, but it's not a hot pepper. I don't do a lot of hot and spicy peppers, especially if I'm going to grow them, because I don't want to be overloaded with them. And I know there's some peppers that if you don't keep them really well watered, they can get really hot. I'm not a hot pepper person. And I do like some spice in my life, but I'm not like, just fired up there. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. I found it at Walmart a few years ago, and I Googled it while I was standing there. I'm like, what is a gypsy pepper? And it popped up that it was in the bell pepper family, that it was a hardy pepper, and it was a tricolor pepper. I'm like, okay, define that. It's a pepper that you could eat in the 3 colors that it goes through. It goes through a green stage, and then a yellow stage, and then a red stage. But the flavors change with each stage, but they don't get hot. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try this one. And the first year that we tried it, it loaded on. I mean, loaded and loaded and loaded and loaded and loaded. And it just kept producing. And it's like, good grief, this is off of one plant. I mean, we got several gallons of these peppers. We were giving them away. That's how much they were producing. We couldn't eat them all. And we were freezing them and everything like that. And it's like, what am I going to do with all these peppers? I shared the bounty is what I did. So anyway, I know that we can do container gardens where I am, and they do pretty good. Well, last summer I was on low carb and keto, but things were just a little hectic in our lives, and we didn't put out a big garden. Just did a couple plants, and that was about it. And this year, Josh and I both are on low carb and keto. And it's like, okay, I need to figure out what we can plant in containers in the zone that we live in. And you're like, hold up, pump the brakes. Tora, what are you talking about, a zone? Okay. All across the United States, there are planting zones, and it's based upon your climate, when your first frost is, when your last frost is, how warm it gets in certain months, how cool it gets of a night, how hot it gets in July and August, how much humidity and things like that. And you may be going, how do I find out what zone I'm in? Easy. You can just type into Google, what planting zone am I in? Click, and it'll pop up, like USDA will tell you, it'll pop up a whole map of the United States, and it has different colors, and it'll say like zone this, zone that, zone this, zone that, all the way down, and they're numbered, and it's a standard map zone, or it's a standard zone for each, everybody does it. All the seed producers, they go by this one map. So it's like, okay, you don't have to worry about, if, Bonnie's plants doesn't go by the same planting zone as, let's say, Gurney's or Henry Fields. Those are three seed producers that, sell plants and things like that. So it's like, okay, all right, that's good to know. Now I know how to find out what zone I'm in. Now the question is, what do I plant? There's a lot of vegetables that people on low carb and keto can have. And then there are some that they need to stay away from. Like we all know, I've said before, we have to stay away from the potatoes. So it's like, okay, well, we can't plant potatoes. Can't plant corn. What can we plant? All right, well, I've been, thinking about this for 3 or 4 weeks. Kind of bouncing a few ideas off of Josh, not too much. I am a type A personality. I plot and plan for everything. Things don't always go according to plan, and that's fine. But, it's like you got to do what you got to do. So I'm like, okay, I got to figure out what I can plant in my zone, what I can plant in my zone that works in containers, and then what I can plant in my containers in my zone that I can have on low carb and keto. All right. Well, I already know I can eat broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage and bell peppers and things like that. Okay, well, that's stuff that that's stuff I'm already buying. I'm purchasing that stuff. So why not try to plant that? I have a list. I'm a list person. It may not always be pen to paper. It may be something that I make a list up on my phone. So it's like, all right, broccoli and cauliflower is on my list. Cabbage is on my list. I'm going to try to get, I found out that I can do a double harvest. There are some plants that you can plant early in the spring and get a harvest, mid-summer. And by midsummer, I'm talking like early June, mid-June. So it's like, okay, I'm definitely going to be looking into those. And then you can replant again in late July and get another harvest in like October, February, or not February. We're in February, Tora. Goodness, I need to know my months. You can plant them in June, the end of July, and then harvest them again in September or October. So it's like, okay, if I can get a double harvest, that means twice as much is going in my freezer, or I'm putting up, or we're eating that I don't have to pay for. That's something that I'm looking for. So I've got broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, those gypsy peppers. I'm going to be planting those again. I'm going to talk to Dad and see if I can't get a bigger container if he has one, and maybe put some zucchinis out. Hello, girls. My doggies are in here. Go on. Gonna try to plant some spinach. Years ago, I found a spinach variety. It was called Italian sweet spinach. So I'm going to try to find that. That was really tasty, really tender. Even when it was, mature, it was really tender. So I'm going to look for that. Look for different varieties, see what I can find. May possibly try my hand at growing some kale. And y'all might be going, kale? Okay. You don't know if you like something until you try it. Okay? Keep that in mind. Kale is a vegetable or leafy vegetable that you can actually blanch and put into, chop it up and put it in your freezer. And I like putting stuff in my freezer because that means I can go dig it out when I need it. I have made an Italian soup that had kale in it, and it was really good. The first time I had it, it had potatoes in it, so I kind of picked around the potatoes. That was early in my low carb journey. But I found a keto version of that recipe. And instead of the potatoes, you put cauliflower in, and it was really good. Josh actually enjoyed it. I actually made it for my mom and dad for Dad's birthday, and he actually liked it. He said it was a little soupy. It's not a chowder soup, okay? It's not. It's like more like a chicken noodle loose soup. It's a more watery soup, which it's fine. So I might try putting out some kale. I don't know. And then I've also been thinking about what can I plant out there in my garden area for pollinators. Because I want them pollinators coming into my garden and, being all happy with my plants. And some people who don't know gardening lingo might be going, what's a pollinator? It's a valid question. A pollinator is like the bees, the little bugs, the butterflies, and different insects that come into your garden, and they go from this flower to this flower to this flower to this flower, and they, do the deed to make your flower go into a fruit. Okay. So we want our pollinators coming in. And I'm like, all right, well, I was like, okay, what can I plant that would attract these pollinators into my garden and make them feel all welcome? And I was looking, doing some research. Daisies. Daisies are a big attractant to pollinators. And daisies are pretty. Okay. Echinacea, which you can actually harvest echinacea and make it into a tea for your sore throats and things like that. They make them into cough drops and things like that too. It's a good herb to have around. And it's also a pretty flower. Then I was looking around and going, okay, zinnias, butterfly bushes and things like that. And I'm like, okay, what else? And one of my favorite flowers popped up. Sunflowers. And it's like, all right, I can grow sunflowers. I can do that. That's pretty easy. And, I know sunflowers have become very popular here lately in the past few years. But I've always liked sunflowers. I've liked them since I was a little kid. I remember begging my dad to let me plant sunflowers. I was like, just once, please. And he let me do it. I think we paid $1 for a pack of sunflower seeds from like Gurney's or Henry Field's back in the day. And Dad was like, what kind do you want? And I was like, I don't know. And I was looking through the books and I saw this picture of this huge sunflower head. And I'm like, I want that one. And it was gray striped mammoth. And, they're the big ones that grow up to like 18 inches across. And, but they attract a lot of pollinators. And we want those in our gardens. We do. So, when I was a kid, I don't remember there being a bumper harvest in the garden. But I do remember there being more bugs that year. And it's like, okay. Now I know as an adult that it was a good thing that there were more bugs in the garden. Good bugs in the garden. So there's that. I probably will put out some sunflowers. I really like sunflowers. I like them in all colors. From that rusty red color all the way to the bright, deep sunflower yellow. The ones that are almost this color. All the way to the ones that are like lemony yellow. It doesn't matter to me. I like sunflowers. Like all kinds of them. So I'm probably going to try my hand at some more sunflowers to get my good bugs into my garden. And I may plant some daisies, and I may plant some echinacea. I don't know. Got to do some more research and figure out which ones go in containers really well. So, and I also was looking, and I found out that lavender is really good to, really easy to grow in containers. Lavender is also a natural mosquito repellent. All right, that may make the list. So I don't know. Going to do some more research and figure out what grows in my zone in containers, that one, I can eat, and number two, that is going to be a pollinator for what I can eat. So going to do some more research and figure that out. A lot of people are, kind of fly by their seat of their pants, but when you're in my situation where you got to figure out what grows in a container, what grows good in your zone, and what you can have, there's a little more thought process that goes into it. But we're at like 70 degrees today. So it's time to really get to thinking about what you can start planting. And I may have to start some things out as seeds in my house in a window before I plant them outside. So that, I may try putting some broccoli seeds in and getting those to germinate and get going before I plant them out in the containers, because I don't want them to get zapped by the frost, especially if I want to get a double harvest. So there's that. So I got a lot of research to be doing, but I wanted to jump on here and share with you guys. Hey, guess what? We're getting ready to make garden. And yes, I will take you all out in my garden. So be prepared for that. You don't have to wear your sunscreen when you're watching my garden. I definitely will. So I don't want to get a sunburn, and I definitely don't want to get a skin cancer from the sun. There's crazy enough stuff going on in this world, Anyway, not getting on that soapbox. But I want to jump on here and talk to y'all a little bit and tell y'all what I'm doing. Getting ready to plant garden. So, if you are interested in planting a garden, all right, and you are limited in space, think about this. Think about putting in a container garden. And you don't have to necessarily plant every single vegetable under the sun in your garden, okay? Plant stuff that you like. Start with just an herb garden. Start with growing like rosemary and chives. You can try growing garlic. I hear that garlic's really easy to grow. I don't know. I'm going to have to do more research on that one. Things like that. You may just start with a little flower box full of lettuce. A fresh garden salad. There's nothing like it. Plus, it's very rewarding. Especially, to me, because, you put a seed in the dirt and then you cover it up and you pour some water on it and you hope and pray that it comes up. And then, you're like, oh, I don't know if it's going to sprout. I don't know if it's going to sprout. And then all of a sudden one day you see this little sprout coming up. And then eventually you get to harvest that and put that, take your bounty and put it on your plate and enjoy it. It's very rewarding and very relaxing. And it's also good to be out in the sunshine. We talked about that before. Getting out in the sunshine, getting your vitamin D, and getting, your good your vitamin C, your vitamin D, getting out there, getting some fresh air in your lungs. We all need good fresh air in our lungs. So, think about growing a garden, even if it's just a little small one. Or you might just want to plant flowers. There's nothing wrong with that. I know several ladies that just plant a garden full of flowers. No vegetables, they just plant flowers, and that's fine. Everybody's different, and everybody has different things that they're good at. And you might not have a green thumb. You might, every plant that you plant, die, and that's fine. It's okay. Difference not bad, difference just different. And everybody is different, okay? So, I want to jump on here and talk to you all about gardening. And it's time to start making our list on figuring out what we are going to be planting and how we're going to plant things, and maybe, thinking about getting those double harvests if you can. That's one thing about living in zone 6. We have a longer growing season than like zone 8, which is up closer to like Minnesota and Wisconsin. We're down here in the heartland, so we get a little more growing season. So why not use it? I know my pocketbook will really appreciate having a bountiful garden, if everything works out. That's something that we gotta, just leave in God's hands. Letting our flowers and our vegetables grow. So anyway, jumping on here, talking to y'all about gardening, start planning on what you're going to plant. Okay. Want to tell y'all that I care for you. All right. I care for you. I really do care for you guys. I was once told that the most precious gift in life is time. I care enough about y'all out there, not just to talk about low carb and keto, but also just about life stuff. Because I care. Okay? I care for you guys. And you're beautiful or handsome, depending upon, you're beautiful. And your beauty comes from the inside, guys. Just remember that. Beauty comes from the inside. You know how, you'll see these people that are just so gorgeous. And you're like, oh my gosh, she is so beautiful, or he is so handsome. And then you find out they got a really rotten attitude. That just kind of brings them down in my book. Beauty comes from the inside. Okay? It's kind of like a light bulb. The light comes from the inside. Okay? So remember that. Beauty comes from the inside, and you are beautiful. Doesn't matter if you got a face full of makeup, no makeup on at all, or you're out there in your garden covered in dirt. Okay? You're beautiful. And smile. Smile, guys. And be kind to yourselves and be kind to others. Kindness is a precious gift, and kindness is contagious. Okay? It's very contagious. It's contagious. Kindness is contagious. All right? And I want to tell y'all something else. All right? Come here. Love ya!